I would like to preface this by saying that I've actually already filmed this video and it took me an hour and a half, and I went to edit it and I accidentally deleted all of the footage. So here we freaking are again. Okay. Hey, what's up guys? It's Michelle Diaz and welcome back to my channel. Basically, recruitment is right around the corner, as many of us know because we're on Alabama Rush TikTok. If Alabama Recruitment had like a reality TV show, I would be its #1 viewer. I am so invested. Anyway, whatever. But yes, recruitment is right around the corner, and last year I made a recruitment video talking about my experience going through recruitment at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Well, since that video, I've gotten a lot of DMs asking me questions that I didn't really touch on in my previous video just because it was centered around my experience more so than just like tips and tricks. So I figured I would do another video talking about like things that I wish I knew as a PNM, or like just about Greek life in general, and like little tips and tricks that I, you know, have gathered throughout the years, I guess. I would like to preface this entire video by saying that this is just my experience. I am an Alpha Xi Delta at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. So every tip and trick and like all of that stuff that I'm about to mention is solely based off of my experience rushing and like getting in and like being in a sorority and being on the sisterhood side and all of that stuff. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm just trying to be helpful and ease some nerves. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, first I'm going to start just addressing some of the more common questions that I was DM'd. A lot of people were just confused about the basic structure of the week. Obviously, we're still in a pandemic. We're going to be doing a modified version of what recruitment usually is, but good news, part of it is in person. So at least for UAB, I don't know about all the other schools obviously, but basically UAB is doing 2 days of philanthropy, 1 day of sisterhood, 1 day of pref, and then bid day. All of these parties are going to be different. Obviously, we're going to be wearing masks, and parties are going to be a lot smaller than they usually are. I know when I went through, there were like, I guess like 30-ish people in like the parties, but it's going to be a smaller number just because, you know, social distancing, like COVID guidelines. Each day is different time slots. Like obviously philanthropy round is going to be smaller parties, like smaller in terms of time. And then sisterhood's gonna be a little bit longer, and then pref is gonna be your longest party slot. One thing that I would like to point out that I forgot to put in my notes is that just because each day has a specific topic, like, you know, sisterhood and philanthropy, you don't have to stick to those topics. Like obviously if you're having a great conversation with a sister about how much you love cats, you don't have to necessarily be like,
oh, I have to stop talking about cats and like I have to ask about their philanthropy.
The conversation can flow whichever way you want it. You could literally just not even talk about like their sisterhood or whatever, but if you are like hitting it off with this girl because y'all are talking about how much you love Star Wars or something like that, like that's cool too, you know. Another thing that people were really confused about was outfits. UAB is completely different than Auburn and Alabama and like all of those SEC schools, like I said in my previous video. I know at some of those schools you can't even wear like spaghetti straps, you can't wear rompers, like blah 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 blah. UAB is completely chill. You just have to wear something that you're comfortable in and you're confident in. Obviously don't show up in sweatpants, like that would not be great. But I wore a romper on the first day. I wore another romper on the second day, but it had a little flap so it looked like a dress. And then on the third day I wore like a long sleeve dress because it was like the dressier day. You can wear literally whatever. If you want to wear a jumpsuit, if you want to wear a romper, if you want to wear spaghetti straps, if you want to wear like little sleeveless like tops or whatever, that's completely fine. It's completely up to you. Just make sure you're comfortable and confident in it because it shows when you're not. If you wear what you think the sororities want you to wear and you're not comfortable in it, you're gonna be in that outfit for like 8 hours or longer. And if you're not confident in it, it's gonna show, because obviously when you're confident, you're in a better mood, you're like more lively, you're more, you know, out there. If you are self-conscious about like what you're wearing, you're just gonna be thinking about that and it's gonna be in the back of your head for every single party. Another question was, do rec letters matter? I touched on this in my previous video, but I just want to reiterate. Obviously, I can only speak for UAB because that's where I go, but rec letters don't really matter. Sorry. Now I'm not saying don't get them. Like obviously if you can get rec letters, like that's cool. If you don't have them though, you should be fine. It's not going to be a make or break situation. I have a bunch of friends that got into the sororities they wanted without a rec letter. I personally had a rec letter for every single sorority, but like I don't think it like set me apart from like all these people, you know? Think of rec letters as like extra credit. You don't necessarily need them, but if you have them, like cool. Like, I'm sure they'll take that into consideration, but it's not going to be the reason why you get in or don't get in. So I know for UAB, you have to submit a little intro and like a little headshot. And a lot of people were wondering how professional that has to be. Your headshot can just be like your senior pictures or like your drape pictures for like senior year and all that stuff. It doesn't have to be like you have to go to like this professional studio and like get headshots done specifically for this. Just a clear picture of your face. It's just so the sororities can put a face to a name. And as far as your intro goes, you don't have to be like,
"Hi, I'm Michelle, and I like canoeing and tea parties in the courtyard."
it's just a little snippet so that like, you know, the sororities get to know you before you're actually in the room. So like you don't have to like play up this whole like persona, you know what I mean? Just be you. Fair enough. People were wondering if recruitment is like an interview. It's not, and if it feels like it is, you're probably not in the right chapter. Recruitment should feel like you are talking to your friend that you haven't talked to in a long time, or like getting to know your new friends. If it feels like a job interview, you're probably not clicking that well with that chapter. Now, I'm not saying like if you just have like 3 great conversations and this one conversation feels like a job interview that you should drop that chapter. I'm just saying if like the entire time you're at the party you feel like you have to like, you know, sit up straight and be in your P's and Q's and like yes ma'am, no sir, like you're probably not clicking that well with them, you know? This was a really big one that I got a lot of DMs about. Is social media important? Kind of, yes. And I'm not saying that like social media will necessarily be like they'll go through everyone's feeds and be like, hers is cute, hers isn't, hers is cute, hers isn't. It's more so just your social media should highlight your personality. With that being said, you don't have to curate your social media to make you look like this happy-go-lucky like sorority girl in the making. Just make sure you're not like, you know, sipping a White Claw or like doing a keg stand at Theta Chi's house. You know what I mean? Like that's just not the best look. But other than that, you should be good. Okay, so now we're gonna be getting into like kind of like tips and tricks and like things that I wish I knew going through recruitment. For starters, the sisters are just as, if not more, nervous than you are. Obviously, if you're going through it from the P&M side, like you're gonna be nervous, like what if they don't like me? Like what if I don't get into one? Like what if I get dropped? Like blah, 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 blah. However, you have to realize that these sororities have spent months preparing for this 1 week. And because they are now allowed to interact with y'all on social media, they've stalked you for months. They are so ready to meet you, and you want the girl that you really like to really like your chapter. Not even that, there's a lot riding on recruitment. So like when they're talking to you the entire time, they're like, oh, I hope they like us just as much as we like them, like blah 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 blah. So they're probably just as, if not more, nervous than you are. Another thing, recruitment is not as scary as you think it is. I know a lot of people play it up to be like,
"Oh, like it's so intense and like emotions are high and like all this stuff."
and I'm not saying it's not. However, going through recruitment is one of the best experiences I've had in like my college career. Obviously, I'm only halfway through, but I've done a lot of things in my college career, and that is by far like one of my favorite memories. Like, I thought recruitment week was the funnest thing ever. Obviously, I'm just speaking from experience. Not everyone had the same experience as me and like all this stuff, but I had a freaking blast. I met some great people, and I still talk to literally almost everyone that I met during that week. So yes, all I'm saying is enjoy it as much as you can. Don't get caught up in the nerves and like the whole what if they drop me and like all this stuff. Like, try to enjoy yourself because it is one of the best experiences if you do. Your level of involvement in the chapter is completely up to you. So if you're debating joining a sorority just because you're like, oh, like I want to work and I want to do all this other stuff in college, like all this stuff, you can totally make that happen. Coming from me, I work and I'm involved in way too many other extracurriculars, and I still manage to make everything fit into my schedule. Obviously, there's going to be events that are like mandatory, like obviously like recruitment and like all that stuff. But besides from that, like you basically choose how involved you are in the chapter. If I can do it, you can do it, because I suck at time management. Like I suck at time management. Sororities are very hands-on with their philanthropy. Coming from someone who doesn't have family members that were in sororities, and like I only knew like a couple people that rushed, I didn't really know much about sororities, and I definitely didn't know about like philanthropies and all that stuff, especially how involved they are with their philanthropy. I know a lot of people have like the misconception that like sororities just
Raise money and ship it off every like month or so, like blah 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 blah, and call it community service.
No, they take their philanthropy seriously. Tiers are literally not a thing, and you need to get off Greek rank or whatever that website is. The thing is, if you walk into recruitment with all of these opinions that you already made about the chapters based off of something that a website says, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure, because 99% of the stuff that's on there is probably false, and it was probably submitted by someone that doesn't even know anything about Greek life or isn't even in Greek life. Also, if you're joining a sorority just because you think they're top tier, you're not joining the sorority for their sisterhood, you're joining it for the status. I said this in my last video, but have questions prepared. Like, I feel the need to reiterate this. Conversations are a two-way street. So you say something, she says something, she asks something, you ask something, she answers, you answer, like all this stuff. That's how a conversation works. And if the sister is having to pick up the conversation every single time, that's not going to be a very enjoyable experience for you or for her. Now, I get that some of us are a little bit more introverted and all that stuff, but if you just have a simple question like, oh, what was your favorite sisterhood event? That could get a girl going for a good bit. Because if anything, sorority girls love talking about their sorority and how much they love their sorority. So you just asking a simple question like that will get her like, oh, well, we have date parties and mixers and events and like blah, 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 blah. And that will get her going for a good bit. And that shows like you're very interested. Make sure you let the chapters know how you feel about them. Obviously, if you're not vibing with the chapter, don't sit there and be like,
I just really hate it here.
Like, don't do that. But if you really, really like a chapter, let them know. Like, it could be as simple as when they're walking you and just be like, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me back. I was so excited when I saw y'all on my schedule, like blah, 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 blah. However, it's very different on pref night. I'm not sure about like bigger schools because obviously I don't go to them. However, at UAB, if you really like a chapter, you have to let them know on pref night. But only say it if you mean it. On pref night, you have the opportunity of going back to 2 chapters. And if in both of those chapters, you're like, I can see myself being in this chapter, I love the sisterhood, like blah, 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 blah. Well, say you really meant it for one chapter, and to the other chapter, you just said it because you thought they wanted to hear that. You are now kind of getting their hopes up, basically. Or just say it to the chapter that you're for sure about. And if you're split, just let them know that too. Don't take it personally if you get cut. You might feel like you were really getting along with this one girl, and you probably were, but so many other things go into making cuts and like deciding who gets invited back the next day. It's very easy to get into that mentality of like, what did I do wrong? Like, did I say something wrong? Like, why did I get cut? But chances are the problem wasn't even with you. It was just so many other things that go into it. But also the sisters know the sororities in and out. And you might really think that you would be a great fit for the sorority, but they might look at you and be like, she would fit so much better in this other sorority. So we're just gonna let that happen. So you never really know the reasoning for you getting cut. So don't take it personally when you do, because it probably wasn't anything that you did. Oh, this is the biggest one. Listen up. If you follow one sorority on Instagram, follow them all, baby. Because I guarantee you the sororities and the sisters are all looking at who you follow. And if you're just following that one sorority that you think is top tier, that you really want, that says a lot. Because now the sororities are like, oh, well, if she really likes that sorority, we're just not even gonna try. Or they might be like, oh, so she thinks she's above every other sorority but this one sorority. That doesn't look great. And on top of that, all of the sororities pride themselves on being very sisterly to the other sororities. And if you're already right off the bat just showing that you only care about this one sorority, even the sorority that you really like that you're following is gonna be like, oh, she doesn't show a lot of Panhellenic love or anything like that. This is literally a completely different angle because my camera just died on me. So this is now the 3rd time that I've tried recording this freaking video. Anyway, back to scheduled programming. Make your Instagram public. It just saves everybody so much time because they want to see your Instagram. They want to see what your personality is like, what you're like on the internet, and all of that jazz. And if you're public, that just makes everyone's life just so much easier. And on the topic of social media, engage with the chapters and the sisters as much as you can. That's as simple as liking a post, commenting on a post, DMing someone, sliding up on a story. Because if you're interacting with them before recruitment, once recruitment does come around, they're gonna be like, oh, that's the girl that slid up on my story of my dog and said it was cute, like blah, 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 blah. So that just shows you're a little bit more interested. You're already making connections before recruitment even starts, which is a really good sign. I talked a little bit about this in my last video, but don't talk to your friends about the chapters. I cannot tell you how many girls I've seen be swayed by which house they want solely because of their friend. Like, I've literally heard it during parties. They'll be like, oh, well, I really like you guys, but like my friend really likes this other chapter, so I'm kind of leaning towards that chapter so we can be in the same sorority. That's completely fine. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you what to do. However, this is your experience just as much as it is hers. And if you are basing what sorority you want because of which one your friends are going to, you're not really getting a whole lot out of your experience. Also, just because you're in a different sorority as your friends doesn't mean you stop being friends. Like, my main friend group, all of the girls are compiled out of like 3 different sororities. Like, you don't just have to be like,
oh, well, I'm in Alpha Z, so I'm literally only gonna talk to Alpha Z's. Like,
like, that's not how this works. Like, you can be friends with people outside of your chapter, you know? So the last little tidbit is, as exciting as bid day is, it can be very overwhelming. Don't get me wrong, one of the most exciting times, like best day, like literally loved it. If I could relive bid day, I would. However, everyone at one point or another has like sat there on bid day and been like, yo, what did I just get myself into? Like it's just a lot. It's like you run to your sorority and you get a jersey and everyone's following you on Instagram, and all of these girls that you've literally never talked to are talking to you like you've been best friends for years, and everyone's following you on Instagram and adding you on Snapchat, and you're making new friend groups, and you're going this and you're doing that, and you're going to a bid day activity and all this stuff, and it's so much in one day that you get very overwhelmed. And I'm not saying that like you get overwhelmed to the point where you're literally just standing there like, what's happening? It's just like at one point or another, everyone has gone through that little side note in their head and been like, yo, what is going on? I don't say this to scare you, just though it's completely normal, and 99% of us thought the exact same thing. Just go through with it and you'll literally find out it's like super chill, like afterwards. They're just all excited and like it's just so much, but like it's so worth it, you know? Sorry this was so low energy of me. The first take was so like I was saying the right things, the energy was there and all that stuff, and now it's 4 hours later, my battery has died twice and I deleted an hour and a half of footage, so this is not my best work. However, I still wanted to get this video out for you guys. So yeah, I hope I was helpful. I hope I eased some nerves. If you're going through recruitment, I wish you all the best of luck. And if you're going through UAB recruitment, feel free to say hey. I literally cannot wait to meet you guys. I'm so freaking excited. But besides that, if I missed anything or if you have any other questions, I'm linking all of my social media down below. Feel free to shoot me an Instagram DM. Or if y'all just want to say hey, that's cool too. I vibe with that as well. I'm also linking the recruitment video I did a year ago where I talk about my experience rushing at UAB and all of that jazz. But yeah, that's all from me today, and I will see you guys next time. And next time, I won't delete my footage, so.